Ladies and gentlemen, let's begin with a question that will make you unpleasant. What if everything you think about your elderly family and safety is wrong? What if the thing you think will keep you safe, having them close by your kids when you get older, actually makes you more open to harm? Feeling helpless and angry in the end, we have this deeply held belief that as when we get old, we have to go into the safety of family, that our kids will be there to care for us. That close means love and support. But let me tell you, it's not the same to be close to someone, as being linked and dependent is not the same living with honor. Many people think that being close to their kids when they get old will, in turn, this makes them stronger. It looks like a happy relationship. Common sense and being close should make it better places to share experiences and keep up with each other's lives. However, being close physically does not promise an emotional connection. In fact, it can sometimes have the opposite effect that makes distance in ways that are not obvious but very bad when people get closer to their kids. Hoping to become an important part of in their lives, they often think that their just being there will keep or even stronger their relationship. But bonds don't just thrive because of shared geography. They need to work together, honor, and a natural desire to stay linked up. If parents become too not available or too involved with their kids, it's possible to forget about them, seeing their being there as something everyday things instead of something important. The visits that used to be special may not feel as special now, end up being required check-ins. Talks might start to feel like repetitive instead of making people feel warm and closeness. Constant closeness can make people lose interest in another. A common problem is the shifting of changes in relationships as a child. Parents are the people in charge of people who make decisions, those who set the rules. But as time goes on, roles start to when parents get older and move closer to their kids. They might, without meaning to, put themselves in a place where they are treated as depend on instead of respect. People who have control over the child, now an adult with a family and having their own responsibilities, may feel stressed to handle or take care of their parents in ways that make them feel weighed down instead of meeting. This can strain change in the relationship from one of appreciation for each other into a quiet responsibility, even more when older. When parents live close by, there may be an expectation, sometimes without saying it clear, that they always will be available for anything from babysitting to grandchildren, helping around the house tasks, or just being there is their job. Can change from family and friends to unpaid help. With this imbalance can make both sides angry. By parent may feel unappreciated and the children may feel like they are being spied on. Emote connection isn't about being in the same area of land. It's about mutual respect and clear communication and keeping your own identity while living. Often, being apart can actually improve relationships by making sure that time spent with each other on purpose, appreciated, and free from the weight of things that aren't said. Obligations that depend too much on. When kids are old, they can cause a slowly losing one's dignity, leaving parents who feel helpless and reliant in ways they didn't expect. Independence is one of the most important things of human worth. It makes people feel of being in charge of their own lives, choices and the future at the moment that giving up independence, even without a doubt, something important is lost. A lot of older parents think that getting closer to their kids will give they have a safety net that makes sure they can always count on someone to help them. When we need help, this can be true. Depend on every day in emergencies, children for running errands with, help with making decisions or getting money. Do not let a parent know that you are worried. Self-worth, instead of being seen as people who are able to make their own choice, they might start to feel like puts an unspoken responsibility on that. It is now up to their children to do this. Loss of dignity doesn't always happen right away. Or clear, It can start with small things that want rides instead of driving while relying on kids for do some housework, or look for valid before making choices for yourself over time. These little things add up, and the A parent may start to feel like they are not now in charge of their own. Even worse if the child acts like taking on a caretaking role that is too demanding, making choices for the parent instead, then it can make a dynamic with them where the parent's voice isn't heard as much. It can be very scary when this change happens, as the people they taught and raised going through life now seem to be able to. They were also dependent on children, is linked to a stronger sense of isolation. If an older person depends only on their family for socializing, they may pull away from an interaction, friendships, community service, or personal interests. Without these outside where people get engaged in their world, lessons, and their sense of who they are can start to fade. They don't feel like they take part in their own lives, but instead, as passive observers, they are waiting for their kids to include. Keeping their honor as they age requires an active effort to protect. Keep your independence, even if it's more difficult to depend on kids. Not the first thing you do, but as a last resort plan. The best ways to connect with each other, mom and dad and their grown kids, come from a place where everyone feels safe and free to choose responsibility. When a parent is old, keeps their independence, they not only keep their pride, but also, please let their kids enjoy them. As people rather than as things to do when parents get old and start to depend on their kids for either mental, financial, or physical help. They might not understand the burden they're giving them, what starts as a decision to stay made with good intentions. As time goes on, a closeness can lead to silence, changing the relationship's duty from a relationship of love to one worn down by duty. This load, whether when acknowledged or not, it can lead to children on both sides are angry. Mostly those who are in the middle of getting ahead in their careers, taking care of their own families and responsibilities, may be hard to balance in their personal lives with the needs of an elderly parent, when parents move in closer with the hope that their kids are going to take care of them. Visit often or offer constant. With your help, it can make a quiet. The child is under more and more pressure over time. Even if they really love their parent, may start to feel trapped and compelled to pick between their own life and the asks their elderly parent. This tension can show up in small ways. A. The child might feel bad about not going to visit. Quite often, even when they are too busy with work or personal, they may start avoiding their responsibilities, to make phone calls or spend less time in conversation because every moment seems like another expectation being put on them. On the other side of a parent may feel ignored or not appreciated, not able to figure out why their kid doesn't seem as interested or ready to help as they had hoped used to be. A loving and warm relationship can get tense, marked by anger, guilt, and unmet expectations. The worst thing about this is dynamic means that neither inevitably plans to make this anger. Parents don't move in closer to. They teach their kids that they will be extra work, and kids don't start by feeling like they have to, but over time as needs grow and make more personal sacrifices. This kind of relationship can grow into something that is transactional instead of how loving the parent may feel, right to care and attention, while the child might feel like they have to give it instead of doing it out of real love. Having good relationships with your parents as well as children need freedom to talk to each other out of love, not duty. When parents take care of their own lives, interests, and the freedom they give you their kids to enjoy being with them instead of having to worry about them, getting rid of the weight of expectation that helps the relationship grow by itself, without the weight of having to do something hurts the bond that once felt easy. When taking care of elderly parents get too close to their kids, they may unintentionally mess up the natural. How their kids' lives have changed over time. Their grown children have built their own family, friends, and routines dynamics. any of which can be subtly or obviously changed when a parent becomes a constant presence near what starts as an attempt to keep in touch can into an intrusion that makes people angry instead of being close. One of the most problems in marriage happen all the time. When a parent is nearby to watch, there is a better chance they will be involved. In everyday life, there are times when that cross the lines, whether it's many unannounced visits without being asked, suggestions, or hopes for constant. These actions can get people involved. Fights between the kid and their spouse. The spouse, who may already be getting work, parenting, and other responsibilities, may start to feel like if they need to take care of someone else, or trying to accommodate this, can make people angry. This is especially true if the child feels caught. Try to make both sides happy, their parent and their spouse. The problem comes up when parents don't mean to decide how to raise their children, own families. When a parent is getting old lives close by, they may naturally turn into more involved in the lives of their grandchildren lives, and this can be a great thing in small amounts. It can also cause disagreements about how to parent. Rules and restrictions the grandparent may offer without being asked thoughts on how the child is being brought up. Creating tension between generations of people have disagreed about these. There are problems with the relationship between the parent and child, may have to deal with what was meant to be a source of help into a source of stress for some. Sometimes having an elderly parent around can even get in the way of their child's personal progress. If the parent often turns to help their child feel better, help making decisions or company, it can slowly bring the child back into a role they had grown out of, instead of fully becoming an adult who lives on their own. They may feel tied to the past in their present life, like they are still in charge of the happiness of their parents. This can stop them from fully accepting new chances to take risks or concentrate about their own goals. While it makes sense for parents to want to stay getting close to their kids. It's not fair that being close costs getting in the way of their healthy, respecting space is important in relationships. The ability to get through life on their own by keeping appropriate parents can set limits to make sure that their being with their kids makes their lives better. Instead of making them more difficult as people as you get older, you naturally tend to depend on family for company. Many people need help and a sense of purpose. Parents think that the years they ought to center on their kids, and making their grandchildren the center family was the center of their daily lives, is definitely important. Relying on too much on kids to make you happy can be a mistake, instead of building a separate and meaningful life outside of. Having family relationships is important for both your own happiness and keeping strong bonds with people you love. When parents spend all of their time, and they may give their kids time and energy, they neglect their own growth without meaning to. Health and happiness. They stop looking for new experiences, making new friends, or pursuing interests that used to bring them together. Joy. Dependence on this kind can lead to a hole in their own lives, leaving them feeling empty when their kids grow up, are busy taking care of their own things, a parent who doesn't do anything else. Their family may not know where, putting emotional stress on their kids, expecting them to give you constant pressure to pay attention and engage. Even if it's not said, it can cause tension and guilt, instead of a natural desire to love, making a connection. Building a happy life means keeping up with friends and family, taking part in hobbies, and staying healthy in mind and body. Having active friendships with peers gives friendship that kids can't always offer, because they have the same life. Events and problems. Community getting involved, whether by volunteering clubs or religious groups that help people grow, pursuing a sense of purpose and belonging, own interests, whether it's traveling to learn new things or just giving yourself a creative outlet, keeping the mind busy and the spirit happy. Not only do these things delight rich and people's lives, but also make them more interesting and fun for their young people who will see them as individuals instead of as dependent. Finds it funny that by focusing on for their own happiness, parents improve their relationships with their kids. When a parent gets old, lives a full and interesting life become a source of happiness instead of talks about obligations or more. The time spent together is fun and interesting. Valued over routine. The parent is still looked up to in someone they look up to in their child's life, instead of someone they think in charge of living one's own life. Own isn't about getting away from something. It's about getting along with family, personal freedom, respect, and independence. Being happy and having a strong sense of self lead to better relationships that let love happen to grow naturally instead of being. Because of duty or guilt, one of the things that are hard for parents to accept are that they want their kids to build lives apart from them from the moment. As soon as a child is born, they start to guard, care for, and lead them, and for. For many parents, this is a very important job, a part of who they are, but as kids grow up to be adults who can do things on their own. The best thing a parent can do for their child is let them go without anger, fear, or a sense of loss, but love, trust, and the faith that they will come back on. They were holding on too tightly to their own terms when it comes to emotions or bodies, put stress on relationships instead of making them stronger. When parents expect for their kids to keep constant please call, visit often, or give ongoing help just because they are family, the bond changes from one mother to another. Which one to choose to one of duty love at its purest form is when it is freely given and not forced. A child feels like they have to interact with their parent out of duty instead of relationships based on desire can get tense. Instead of once and feeling guilty about it than what true love really means. Being aware that your child's happiness may not always be in line with your expecting something, it means knowing that they need to be able to make their own picks to start their own families and make a life that shows who they are, unique wants and needs. This is not as an attack on their parents, but rather this is a normal part of life. Parents who don't follow this process. Many times they find themselves getting their kids to leave, stuffing them full of expectations that feel restrictive instead of helpful by putting their attention on rising. For kids' happiness and health, parents set a strong role model for their kids when they show that you're still alive, and it's only in retirement that you can be truly happy. As long as they live, and that love is most strong when given without strings that are added when a parent embraces. For their own freedom, they give their telling kids they can do the same without blame, without anger, and without fear. At the end, real relationships are those that are built based on mutual respect and freedom. A kid who can live however they want, their own life will come back, not out of duty, but out of love. And giving thanks and letting go is not about, when you lose a child, you have to give them back. The room to grow into the people they're meant to be, while making sure your own life stays rich, meaningful, and satisfying.